Mahe and Mayyazhi are the exact same place. Mayyazhi is the original Malayalam name, meaning beautiful estuary, and served as the basis for the anglicized and French name, Mahe. It is a small coastal town and district in the Union Territory of Puducherry, located on the Malabar coast at the mouth of the Mahe River. Though it is politically part of Puducherry, it is entirely surrounded by the state of Kerala, neighboring the Kannur district, 3 sides, and Kozhikode district 1 side. Mahe rests on the Precambrian shield, its basement rocks of granite and gneiss dating back more than 500 million years. These crystalline foundations, weathered under tropical conditions, gave rise to the laterite soils that dominate the Malabar coast. The reddish laterite, porous yet resilient, became both a building material and a marker of deep geological time. The Western Ghats escarpment, formed during the breakup of Gondwana around 145 to 65 million years ago, lifted the terrain and created the sharp divide between plateau and coast. This tectonic uplift shaped the Malabar shoreline, funneling rivers like the Mahe River toward the Arabian Sea. The escarpment is not a fold mountain but a faulted edge, a scar of continental drift that continues to influence drainage and biodiversity. In more recent epochs, neotectonic activity has tilted the Mahe River basin. Strike-slip fractures and nick points in stream profiles reveal ongoing crustal movements. The asymmetry of the basin is a living testimony to Earth's restless interior, subtly altering flood patterns and sediment transport even today. The Quaternary period, last 2 million years, brought dramatic coastal changes. Sea level oscillations and monsoon-driven sedimentation carved estuaries, wetlands, and sandy deposits. The Holocene, last 10,000 years, saw the coast stabilize into the form we recognize now, though erosion and accretion remain constant forces. The southwest monsoon, lifeblood of Kerala, is not eternal, it is geologically young. Evidence from marine sediments and isotope studies suggests it intensified around 8 to 10 million years ago, during the late Miocene, linked to the uplift of the Himalayas and Tibetan Plateau. Its modern rhythm, with seasonal reversals and ocean atmosphere coupling, stabilized during the Holocene, about 10,000 years ago. Thus, while the rocks beneath Mahe are ancient, the monsoon that defines its ecology and culture is comparatively youthful, a climatic system born of tectonics and sustained by ocean currents. Timeline in flow can be precisely as follows. Precambrian, more than 500 million years, granite, gneiss basement, laterite soils. Mesozoic, Cenozoic, 145 to 65 million years, Western Ghats uplift, Gondwana breakup. Neotectonic, less than 1 million years, strike-slip fractures, tilted river basin. Quaternary, 2 million to 10,000 years, coastal sedimentation, wetlands, estuaries. Late Miocene, about 8 to 10 million years, birth of the southwest monsoon. Holocene, about 10,000 years, stabilization of modern monsoon cycles, shaping agriculture and settlement. The monsoon's youth compared to the rocks explains why climate and hydrology are dynamic forces here. Coastal erosion and sea level rise echo past quaternary shifts. The Mahe River basin, tilted by neotectonics, remains vulnerable to floods and sediment imbalance. The laterite soils, though ancient, are fragile under modern pressures. The Mayyazhi River, also known as the Mahe River, is about 54 kilometers long and drains a basin of nearly 400 square kilometers before meeting the Arabian Sea at Mahe. Its breadth varies with the terrain. Narrow upland channels in Wayanad expand into a wider estuary near the coast. Several small tributaries feed into it, including the Chokli River, Kunhapuja, and seasonal rivulets that swell during the monsoon. These branches give the river its character as a short but complex waterway. Bridges span the river at key points, most notably the Mahe Bridge near the estuary, which connects Kerala with the Union Territory enclave. Smaller crossings exist upstream, linking villages and facilitating local movement. Historically, ferries and country boats were common, but today the bridges carry most of the traffic, while fishing boats and small craft still ply the waters. The river's banks support a rich flora. Mangroves such as Avicennia and Rhizophora dominate the estuarine zone, while coconut, cashew, and arecanut plantations thrive on the lateritic uplands. Bamboo and reeds line the banks, stabilizing the soil and providing cover for smaller animals. This vegetation creates habitats that sustain a diverse fauna. Bird life is especially abundant. Resident species include egrets, herons, cormorants, and kingfishers, while Brahminy kites and fish eagles patrol the skies. Migratory birds such as terns, sandpipers, and wagtails arrive in winter, drawn to the estuary's feeding grounds. The river also supports a wide range of fish, mullets, anchovies, and the prized pearl spot thrive in brackish waters, while catfish, barbs, and tilapia inhabit the freshwater stretches. During the monsoon, prawns and crabs move into the river, enriching the catches of local fishermen. Taken together, the Mayyazhi River is not just a geographical feature but a living system. Its length and breadth, tributaries and bridges, flora and fauna, and the seasonal rhythms of birds and fishes all weave into the cultural and ecological fabric of Mahe, making it a river remembered in both natural history and Malayalam literature. A small enclave on the Malabar coast, India, Mahe is a former French colony renowned for its colonial heritage, strategic historical significance, and cultural landmarks like St. Teresa's Church, blending French and Indian influences amidst natural beauty. Standing as both geological and cultural crossroads, Mayyazhi is not only geologically ancient but also biologically and historically layered. Its flora records over 379 species of flowering plants, its fauna reflects Western Ghats biodiversity, and its human past ties to Kolathu Nadu kingdoms, French colonial rule, and earlier tribal settlements. Flora evolution recorded diversity. A survey documented 379 taxa of angiosperms, spanning 317 genera and 104 families. This includes species unique to the humid western coast and others common across India. Historical botanical records. Botanists such as Van Reed, author of Hortus Indicus Malabaricus, 1678–1693, and Carl Linnaeus's Apostle Torin, 1750–1751, visited the region, recording plants for early European science. Laterite ecology. The porous laterite soils support coconut palms, areca nut, jackfruit, and medicinal plants, linking geology to vegetation. Fauna evolution. Western Ghats hotspot. Mahe lies within one of the world's 8 hottest hotspots of biodiversity. Riverine ecosystems. The Mahe River estuary supports fish, crustaceans, and wetland birds. Forest remnants. Though small in area, Mahe's enclaves connect to Kannur and Kozhicode's faunal corridors, home to lion-tailed macaques, Malabar civets, hornbills, and endemic amphibians. Ancient inhabitants. Kolathu Nadu. Before European arrival, Mahe was part of Kolathu Nadu, which included Tulu Nadu, Chirikal, and Kadathanadu. Tribal presence. Oral traditions suggest early tribal groups lived along the Mahe River estuary, relying on fishing and forest produce. Kingdoms. The Raja Vajanavar of Vadakara granted the French East India Company rights to build a fort in 1724, marking the transition from local rule to colonial foothold. Colonial and Ward History. French colony. Mahe became a French possession in the early 18th century, retaken by Bertrand François Mahe de la Bourdonnais in 1741 after Maratha occupation. Municipal wards. Today, Mahe municipality governs the enclave, divided into wards that reflect both colonial layouts and modern administrative needs. Cultural landmarks. St. Teresa's Church and colonial-era buildings embody the French-Indian blend. Risks and continuity. Biodiversity pressure. Urbanization threatens Mahe's recorded flora and fauna. River estuary stress. Pollution and coastal erosion endanger fish and bird habitats. Heritage fragility. Colonial structures and tribal memories risk fading without conservation. The story of ancient Mahe or Mayyazhi begins at its estuary, where the river meets the Arabian Sea. Archaeological hints from the wider Malabar coast suggest that fishing communities settled here thousands of years ago, long before kingdoms and colonial powers arrived. The estuary's sheltered waters and abundant fish made it a natural harbor for early inhabitants. Evidence from coastal Kerala shows microlithic tools, pottery shards, and cave shelters used by prehistoric fisherfolk and hunter-gatherers. While Mahe itself has not yielded large excavations, its laterite ridges and riverbanks likely hosted similar activity. Stone flakes, bone points, and rudimentary nets would have been part of their toolkit, enabling them to harvest fish, crabs, and shellfish. Over time, these fishing groups evolved into settled communities. They built canoes from local timber, used estuarine sandbanks for drying nets, and developed rituals around the sea. Oral traditions in Kolathu Nadu speak of clans who guarded river mouths and traded dried fish inland. The Mahe River basin, tilted by tectonics yet fertile, provided both freshwater and access to the sea. By the early historic period, Mahe was part of Kolathu Nadu, a coastal kingdom that stretched across northern Kerala. Fishermen here were not only providers of food but also guardians of maritime routes. Their knowledge of tides and monsoon winds made them indispensable to traders from Arabia and later Europe. Thus, the ancient fishermen of Mahe were more than subsistence workers. They were the first custodians of the estuary, shaping its economy and culture. Their tools, pottery, and river-based settlements mark the beginnings of human history in this enclave, long before French forts and colonial wards transformed its identity. Mahe also Mayyazhi is unique, a tiny enclave on the Malabar coast that became a French colony in the 18th century and remained so until well after India's independence in 1947. Its story is a blend of maritime trade, colonial rivalry, and nationalist struggle. French colonial Mahe. Early foothold, 1721 to 1741. The French East India Company secured rights from local rulers of Kolathu Nadu to build a fort at Mahe. In 1741, Bertrand François Mahe de la Bourdonnais recaptured the town from Maratha occupation, giving his name to the settlement. Strategic enclave. Mahe became a French trading post, valued for its estuary and access to pepper, textiles, and spices. It was one of the 4 French settlements in India, alongside Pondicherry, Karaikal, and Yanam. Colonial rivalry. The British and French fought repeatedly over Mahe during the Carnatic Wars and later Napoleonic conflicts. Control shifted several times, but France retained it as a small but symbolic possession. Mahe in the wider colonial context. French India. Unlike the British, France never controlled vast territories. Its enclaves were small but culturally distinct, with French law, administration, and Catholic missions. Local society. Fishermen, traders, and farmers lived alongside French officials and missionaries. St. Teresa's Church became a landmark of this cultural blend. Towards independence. Indian independence, 1947. When India gained freedom from Britain, French India remained under French control. Nationalist movements. Local leaders and residents of Mahe demanded integration with India. Demonstrations and uprisings in the late 1940s and early 1950s reflected the wider nationalist wave. De facto transfer, 1954. On 1 November 1954, Mahe, along with Pondicherry, Karaikal, and Yanam, was handed over to India administratively. De jure transfer, 1962. France formally recognized Indian sovereignty through a treaty, ending nearly 250 years of French presence. Legacy today. Mahe retains traces of its French past in architecture, Catholic churches, and administrative heritage. It is politically part of Puducherry Union Territory, though geographically surrounded by Kerala. Its identity is layered. Malayalam culture, French colonial memory, and Indian nationalism coexist in this small enclave. The influence of the French Revolution and the Napoleonic era upon Mahe or Mayyazhi was subtle yet significant, shaping the destiny of this small enclave on the Malabar coast. When revolutionary ideals of liberty and equality swept through France in 1789, they reached even distant colonies. Mahe, already weakened by the dissolution of the French East India Company, experienced administrative shifts and debates over trade. Pepper exports became politicized, earning the name, patriotic pepper, as commerce was tied to revolutionary pride. Yet the turbulence of Europe spilled into India. In 1793, during the Wars of the Revolution, the British captured Mahe, ending its brief experiment in municipal autonomy and exposing how global conflicts could engulf even minor coastal settlements. Napoleon Bonaparte's rise further intensified Anglo-French rivalry. Though he never visited India, his ambitions stretched eastward, and his correspondence with Tipu Sultan of Mysore in 1798 revealed plans to challenge Britain's dominance. This raised British suspicion of French enclaves such as Mahe, which were seen as potential footholds for wider campaigns. During the Napoleonic Wars, Britain ensured Mahe remained neutralized, repeatedly occupying or monitoring it to prevent French resurgence. After Napoleon's defeat, treaties restored Mahe to France in 1816, but its role was diminished, overshadowed by British supremacy in India. Together, the French Revolution and Napoleonic era marked a turning point for Mahe. Revolutionary ideals briefly touched its governance and trade, while Napoleonic ambitions made it a pawn in global rivalry. The enclave's repeated capture and restoration symbolized France's declining power in India, yet its survival preserved a distinct French identity that endures in Mahe's architecture, culture, and memory today. The Mahe River originates in the Wayanad Hills of the Western Ghats, flows west through Kerala's lateritic landscapes, and finally empties into the Arabian Sea at Mahe town. Source location. The river originates from the Western Ghats, specifically the Wayanad or Wayanad Hills in Kerala. Headwaters. Small streams rise in the Nerapada and Velamunda regions of Wayanad district, flowing westward. Course. It travels through hilly terrain, lateritic plateaus, and fertile valleys before entering the coastal plains. Length. Roughly 54 kilometers long, draining into the Arabian Sea at Mayyazhi or Mahe. Catchment area. About 394 square km with steep eastern slopes and gentler western plains. The Mahe or Mayyazhi River is relatively small, but it does have a few tributaries and branches feeding into it from the Western Ghats before it reaches the Arabian Sea, such as Chokli River. a small tributary joining near Chokli, adding flow from the eastern slopes. Kunhapuja, local stream that merges with the Mahe River in its mid-course. Murad River, sometimes considered a branch, draining nearby lateritic uplands. Minor streams. Several seasonal rivulets descend from the Wayanad Hills, especially during monsoon. Basin structure. Eastern tributaries. Steep, short streams from the Ghats, high runoff during monsoon. Western branches. Gentle lateritic plains, more porous soils, reducing flood intensity. Estuarine convergence. All tributaries ultimately merge near Mayyazhi town, forming the small estuary before entering the Arabian Sea. The Mahe Lighthouse is a historic coastal beacon established in 1893 on the southern bank of the Mayyazhi River entrance in Mahe, Puducherry. The station originally began in 1885 when the British erected a simple white mast on a stone base to guide local vessels entering the river mouth. By 1893, this temporary structure was replaced by a permanent 13-meter-tall white circular concrete tower operating with traditional oil-fed lamps. Over the decades, the lighthouse underwent significant modernization to enhance maritime safety. The original light source was upgraded to a high-powered 400-500 watt halogen lamp system that features a 30-meter focal plane range and projects 2 white flashes every 10 seconds across 15 nautical miles. Recognizing its historical value, the Directorate General of Lighthouses and Lightships included the structure in a National Maritime Heritage and Tourism Enhancement Drive in 2013. Today, the lighthouse operates sustainably using a 2 kilowatts off-grid solar plant and stands as a popular tourist attraction inside the scenic Tagore Park precinct along the Mahe River walkway. Mukpenkanu is a scenic heritage picnic spot situated on the south bank of the Mayyazhi River estuary where it empties into the Arabian Sea. Steeped in colonial history, this wooded hillock once served as the administrative core of the region, housing the bungalow of the French administrators, Mupin Saves Bungalow, which functions today as the government house. The hillock seamlessly blends its rugged natural beauty with modern amenities, featuring well-laid walking pavements, park benches, and protective cast iron safety railings along its paths. It is home to the historic 13-meter-tall Mahe Lighthouse built in 1893, and functions as an exceptional vantage point for tourists to view the coastline. Seamlessly connected to the nearby Tagore Park in a 2-kilometer riverside promenade, Mukpenkanu remains a highly favored local spot for experiencing panoramic ocean sunsets. Velliyamkallu, also known as Sacrifice Rock, is a historic 2-acre rocky island located in the Arabian Sea off the coast of North Malabar. The site holds immense historical significance as it served as a strategic naval lookout for Kunjali Marakar, the legendary naval commander of the Zamorans, during his fierce battles against Portuguese invaders. Its haunting name, Velliyamkallu or Sacrifice Rock, stems from the tragic period when the Portuguese captured local fighters and threw them from the sharp rocks into the sea. Today, the island still bears the physical scars of this turbulent era, with visible crater marks left by historic cannonball attacks on its rugged stone surfaces. Beyond its military history, the island is deeply woven into the cultural and literary fabric of Kerala, most notably immortalized in M. Mukundan's iconic Malayalam novel, Mayyazhi, where folklore depicts it as a mystical resting place where souls transform into dragonflies. Geographically, while Velliyamkallu is deeply tied to the cultural identity of Mahe, it actually sits further south along the Kozhikode coast, roughly 10 to 14 kilometers off the shore of Payoli Beach. Because of this distance, the island is barely visible as a faint speck on the horizon from the Mahe lighthouse on even the clearest days. Instead, the true vantage point built to navigate these treacherous waters is the Kadalore Point Lighthouse, also known as the Thikoti Lighthouse, located about 30 kilometers south of Mahe. Erected by the British specifically to warn mariners of the dangerous offshore reefs surrounding Sacrifice Rock, this southern lighthouse offers the most authentic, panoramic land-based view of the massive rock formation rising out of the sea. Today, the area attracts both history enthusiasts and nature lovers, drawn by the island's abundant marine life, thriving green mussel populations, and its status as a sanctuary for migratory birds. The bronze bust of Marianne in Mahe, a historic symbol of the French Republic, was created by the renowned French sculptor Charles Gautier, 1831–1891, in collaboration with his associate Jacques France. The pseudonym of the sculptor Paul Lecroux, 1826–1894. The sculpture is celebrated for its intricate pictograms, or symbolic elements that visually represent the national motto without using words. The Phrygian cap worn by Marianne signifies liberty. The level, a mason's tool often hidden in the folds of her dress or chest, symbolizes equality, and the clasped hands or sheaves of wheat represent fraternity and abundance. While the primary artistic signature belongs to these French masters, the monument is locally understood to carry the writings of these core democratic values, liberté, égalité, fraternité, which are conceptually written into the artwork through these Masonic symbols, bridging the cultural understanding between the French administration and the local populace. The history of this specific monument is a fascinating tale of colonial maritime transit. Commissioned to commemorate the centenary of the French Revolution, 1789–1889, the bust was cast in France and officially shipped out of the port of Toulon. In November 1889 aboard the naval vessel Vin Long. The ship's final destination was actually Indochina, present-day Vietnam, where the statue was intended to be installed. However, during a scheduled stopover at the French settlement of Mahe, the decision was made to offload and erect the monument there instead, where it has remained ever since. This serendipitous arrival transformed the bust from a mere piece of colonial administrative art into a permanent landmark of Mahe's unique Indo-French heritage, surviving even after the region's integration into India in 1954. No other major French colonial figurative statues remain in public spaces in Mahe today. In the superstition tied to the Velliyamkallu myth of Mahe, dragonflies were imagined as spirit messengers rising from the rock, carrying omens for the people. Yet the belief itself rests on a paradox. In reality, dragonflies cannot live or breed on Velliyamkallu, since it is a barren granite outcrop without plants or freshwater pools. Their life cycle demands aquatic vegetation and calm water, which the rock does not provide. This impossibility gave the superstition its mystical force. The sudden appearance of dragonflies around the estuary was interpreted not as natural breeding but as supernatural emergence, a sign that the spirits of the river or ancestors were speaking. For the people of Mahe, the myth blurred ecology and imagination, turning a lifeless stone into a sacred threshold where dragonflies symbolized transformation, memory, and fate.
I hear you been asking about me, where I've been and where I sleep. It's hard to find me if you really want to. Turns past that Texaco sign. Same bobcat, same moon boots, trying to outrun the thought of you. But in this town the truth don't stop. You can't live in a town this small. You can change your mind but not your past. Every mile just feels like moving half. You can change my name in your phone. You can't live in a town this small. I moved on but not too far, just down the road from who we are. You can change your hair, change your street, but you can't outrun the memories. Nah, I ain't mad, I just laugh sometimes. How love can fade, but this town stays mine. They say small towns just don't